that track. So they called professors from the zoology department who looked at it and said, "My God, it's rhinoceros tracks." So they followed them down to Lake Cayuga, where they went to a big hole in the middle of the ice, which these students looked. My God, the rhinoceros fell into the lake. So as soon as the ice melted, they were dredging for this imaginary rhinoceros. So things like that can happen. Maybe these guys didn't make all the crop circles. Yes?
Could you address, back to politics and demonology?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Talk about Armageddon a little bit, maybe.
Oh, Jesus. If I was going to talk about politics and demonology, I should have started earlier. According to Roman Catholic teaching, after a priest mutters certain words over a piece of bread, the piece of bread becomes the body and blood of a Jew who died 2,000 years ago. Now this is certainly a remarkable proposition. It's even more remarkable when you look into the intricacies of the theory, because they admit, all Catholic theologians admit, that the bread doesn't seem to change. If you bite it, it will still taste like bread to you. If you look at it under a microscope, it will have the same molecular structure as other bread. But the explanation is accidents in essence. The accidents of a thing are anything we can observe with our senses or with scientific instruments. The essence is totally unobservable. And so therefore, even though all the accidents, anything you can check about the bread makes it look like it's still bread, the essence has actually changed. So if you're into cannibalism, all you got to do is chew on that and you got human flesh and blood. And this is very popular. Apparently there are a lot of people who want to be cannibals because this is one of the biggest religions in the world. Now, that is an example of what's called essentialism, after Aristotle, who invented the doctrine of accidents and essences. And in quantum psychology, for sale at the bookstore upstairs, I explain why I reject essentialist thinking. And when you make propositions like the real essence of the thing is something unobservable, it not only can't be proven, it can't be disproven. Since it can neither be proven nor disproven, it has no consequences for our lives, pragmatically, existentially, as beings in space-time. And yet we have all been so conditioned by Aristotelian logic and Aristotelian habits over the last 2,500 years in our culture that people go around uttering essentialist statements all the time. To make clear what I mean by it can't be proven or disproven, supposing I start a religion and call it Los Angeles Catholicism, as distinguished from Roman Catholicism, I teach that when I mutter the words over the bread, it turns into the hide of the Easter bunny. Now, the essence, the accidents remain the same. It still appears to be bread. But any way you measure it, any way you try to test it. But the essence has actually become the hide of the Easter bunny. Now, one of these, this proposition makes just as much sense as the Catholic proposition. It can't be disproven any more than it can be proven. Ludwig Wittgenstein described such arguments as abuse of language, which became a catchphrase with the logical positivists. A hell of a lot of traditional philosophy in the Western world turns out to be abuse of language in that sense, misuse of language, stating things which have no meaning whatsoever, but seem to have meaning because they have grammatical structure, like colorless green ideas sleep furiously, or all round squares eat red cabbage. Now, if you analyze politics, you will find an astonishing number of propositions that turn out to be totally meaningless in that sense. And it's equivalent to saying the people who disagree with us have demons in them. Most of Hitler's rantings against the Jews turn out to be totally beyond any meaningful context. Hitler's propositions, some of them remain true even if you prove that the economic and so on things weren't true, because he's assuming an essence a racial difference which can't be scientifically validated. It's known intuitively by the true Aryan, etc. And we had a House Un-American Activities Committee for a long time. They were looking for un-American activities. Now, these people would get up in the morning and take off their pajamas, an Arabian invention, drink their coffee imported from South America, brush their teeth, an English idea, ride in a car, an invention made in Europe before Henry Ford by the Fiat Company, button their flies, another Arabic invention, and use paper to send notes to their secretary, a Chinese invention, and then try to investigate whether un-American ideas and practices were getting into this country. Un-American had become a totally meaningless term. There is nothing purely American because everything was brought here from somewhere else. The so-called Indians, or Native Americans, when they arrived here, they found traces of previous people living here. They found bones, human bones in caves. There have been somebody living in caves in the Southwest, at least. So everything has been brought here from somewhere else, and yet there was this mad hunt for un-American behaviors, which was just like Hitler's hunt for un-Aryan behaviors. And it's astonishing how much of politics consists of that kind of totally meaningless language, which still activates people and gets them emotional. Like, well, the United States has never fought an aggressive war. All of our wars are defensive. Now, if you follow the papers carefully, you'll find every now and then we get some prisoners released from somewhere around the world, from some previous war, sometimes Vietnam, Korea, someplace. Every now and then we get some dead bodies back from around the world, from South America, from Asia, from Africa, from all sorts of places. They're constantly being brought back here. But do you ever hear about us sending bodies back to any place else? No, because nobody has invaded this country in our lifetimes. Nobody, in the existential, objective, non-verbal level, nobody has invaded this country. We have invaded other countries. But politics consists of the repetition of hypnotic phrases so that people believe that we are fighting defensive wars while we are attacking other people's countries. We're defending ourselves against those people 8,000 miles away. All the time we were in Vietnam, it was because if we didn't attack them, they might sail across the Pacific in their junks and launch an attack on Los Angeles. And we're supposed to, that is abuse of language. That is demonology. When we start when we start sending bodies back to other countries, then I believe we have been attacked. Since we're just getting our bodies back from other countries, I believe we have been attacking other countries while we were claiming to defend ourselves. But language can hypnotize you to the point where you can't even see that up is up and down is down, and who's attacking who. And this is very much like the demonology of the Middle Ages, in which they had infallible tests to tell who was a witch. One of them was anybody you throw in the water that doesn't float. If they sink and drown, well, they're not a witch. If they float, they are a witch, and you burn them at the stake. And another test, anybody who says there are no witches is a witch. That was revived very successfully by Joe McCarthy in my lifetime. Joe McCarthy made a career out of anybody who says the government isn't full of communist spies is himself a communist spy. So nobody dared to challenge Joe McCarthy. To challenge him was to become a communist agent by definition. Nowadays, if you attack the war on drugs, you're, another one of those drug users. I got a lot more about demonology and politics in various of my books, but that's just a brief coverage of it. It's astonishing the extent to which political arguments have the same structure as the demonological delusions of the Middle Ages. They're both based on Aristotelian logic and the idea of indwelling essences within things. And we were supposed to end at 2:20, and it's now 2:23. So I hate to end abruptly, so I will give you a... Oh, I thought I was supposed to end at 2:20. Okay. Okay, yes.
In one of your books or tapes, I can't remember which one it was,
You mentioned that earlier in your career in studying the Kabbalah, you went through a ritual in which you invoked